tonight really is about you. So we'll do a quick flyover of what we talked about a couple weeks ago, and the rest of the time we just want to hear from you, answer any questions that you have, and clarifying questions or whatever, and we'll go from there, all right? Lord, this is a remarkable season. It is just neat to sit back and I'm just constantly meeting new faces that I've never seen before. And Lord, we grieve over parking problems, and yet we rejoice that there's nowhere to park. Lord, I pray in Jesus' name that churches all throughout the Heartland would have parking problems and building size problems. And Lord, I just pray that your church would grow, that your name would be made famous in the Heartland. And this work you're doing at us, would you do it in all of the church families that would be willing to yield to your kingship and your master strategy. Lord, I do pray two things that I continue to pray over Lake Placid. God, I pray that it's so wildly successful that many people who are either de-churched or do not know Jesus yet come to know the Lord, come to find community within the household of faith, Lord, and for generations, many people would come to know Christ. So I pray that my little girl has many gospel deposits in her life at Grace Lake Placid, and that she becomes a conduit of your mercy to the world, your good news, because of the deposit made by team members and volunteers and staff in Lake Placid. Lord, the second thing I continue to ask is, Lord, I pray that this work that you have called us to is so wildly successful that it signals other healthy churches in our community to reconsider the use of resources, to be less concerned about building bigger buildings and more concerned about expanding the kingdom footprint throughout the Heartland. We ask that all in Jesus' name. Amen. Anything?
Yeah, no, we definitely wanted to just have this moment with you guys specifically, but anybody from our community, Sebring local or not, that is leaning into what we're doing here to ask those questions. So please, if you need clarifications, if we say words like simulcast, we say words like anything that you're like, what does that mean? Please ask us, because we know that you guys represent our people. And if you represent our people, then if you're thinking the question, someone else probably has the question. So please, as we go along and we start talking about what it's going to look like, what the model's going to look like, who's going to be doing what are my responsibilities, what are his responsibilities, please don't hesitate to ask, because we want you to have the clearest picture, because you guys are going to be the good newsers who continue to carry on the news of what's going on when your neighbors start to ask. When someone, you run to the lady at Publix who's upset about it that says, oh, they just want to, you get to speak truth to those things. So we want to encourage you to say, if you have any questions or after the fact you have follow-up questions, please ask them. No, we may hit you with the we don't know yet, but we'd love to make sure we get access to your information and we'll follow up on those things because there are some unknowns. But Dustin will kind of paint a picture for us here. I'll talk a little bit about what campus pastor means, at least in our understanding of it and what we created. And then at the end of that, again, any questions you guys have, please write them down so you remember, and we can entertain those for you, because we want to leave with more answers, even though you may leave with more questions. It's a potential.
Let me just see where we're starting here. Just by a show of hands, how many of you were here 2 weeks ago and I just kind of laid out the whole here's what we know, here's what we don't know talk? So most of you, just so I'm clear, anybody that was not and has no idea of the details, a couple of y'all, I'll give you a quick flyover. I'm not texting or reading ESPN. I'm just trying to pull up my notes to make sure I can hit the highlights quickly. It's probably been 6 years ago. We started to just recognize what was measurable growth at Grace, and knowing that we had already kind of outgrown what we had here, that has compounded significantly within the last probably year and a half to 2 years. Any of y'all that have tried to attend, it's not even season yet, and as you maybe have tried to attend particularly the 10 o'clock service, it's like if you don't show up 20 minutes early, forget about it, So we had been praying about what do we do, and every solution we had, like putting in a balcony, for example, or building a new building on the property, every solution that we had was creating new problems. And so we decided, we need to bring in some professionals. There's consultants in the world of church, as believe it or not, that they specialize in this. So we we leaned on, we started asking pastors around the country, hey, who would you use? And they all started throwing out the same name. So we just called those guys. We've been working with them ever since. They've been helpful. But they gave us, hey, here's option A. Here's what building a new building on this property looks like. And here's the phases of how we would do that. And that's going to run you somewhere between 12 to 15 million dollars. Okay. And you're going to gain about 300 seats. That doesn't sound real worth it to me. I don't know about y'all. And so, all right, well, what's plan B? Well, here's the redesign of the current facilities. We would do vaulted seating in here, so it'd be kind of like a bowl. We would redesign the children's facility. We expand the parking lot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That'll be about $7 million. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I like that one either. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, we're financially healthy as a church. We're debt-free as a church, but that has really taken the work of God and some faithful stewardship over the years, because our giving is not reflective of the size of our church. Our annual income is about half of what churches our size brings in around the country. Part of that's just our local context. Part of that may be a discipleship issue, I don't know, but these are the realities we're working with. Money wasn't gonna make our decisions though. We began to pray and ask the Lord, what are we supposed to do? Because clearly you're doing something, and clearly we have to respond, because we can't keep. The deputy came up to me one day 2 years ago, and he says, y'all have to do something. I counted a dozen cars that drove up, turned around, and left. Maybe y'all were one of those cars. Or maybe you have been. And it's like, we realize like some of these folks that aren't making it in are probably some of the target audience we're trying to reach. Either new, D-church folks, or people that don't yet know Jesus. We want to have a welcoming environment where you can actually walk in with a family of 5 and sit down somewhere. And it was actually the consulting company that specializes in buildings and facility redesign. They said, we really don't think you need to build a bigger building. As we pulled up the heat map of Grace, where everybody's coming from, where all your giving units coming from, they circled Lake Placid on the map, and they said, you need to build a church there. And we were like, no way, abide. We've worked for a decade of bringing about collaboration amongst gospel-centered churches in this community. There is no way we're planting a church on top of our partner agencies. And they started throwing numbers at us. 23,000 people with a Lake Placid address, somewhere between 3, maybe 4,000 tops, but probably not. Somewhere around 3,000 people actually attending one of the local churches in Lake Placid. That's 20,000 people that effectively, at least, not saying there's 20,000 not yet believers in Jesus, but 20,000 people are not engaged in the regular life of the body of Christ in Lake Placid. And they said, oh, by the way, Grace Bible pastors and elders, you already have like 300 people down there. This is not the time to build a bigger building. It's time to have another location, start equipping the Lake Placid community to engage a Lake Placid community. That number has continued to increase since then. We're estimating somewhere north of 400, maybe even 500, and that's just 33852. That's not surrounding areas. Some of y'all are from Spring Lake or Zolfo Springs or Loretta, and you're thinking about making that your location. You're not even accounted for in that figure. It is a massive church coming up from Lake Placid. And so the Lord we prayed about it as elders wrestled over it, consulted other churches around the country, and the Lord made it, stunningly clear that this is what we're supposed to do. So in faith, we told y'all 2 years ago, God told us to plant a church in Lake Placid. Here we go. And we knew nothing else. And we believe that God had called us to do that in faith. Now, as we fast forward, God has continued to reveal his provision in all of that, all the way to the point of us closing on a facility that is historically one of Lake Placid's crown jewels. It was at school. Some of y'all went to school there. I remember Scott played basketball, he said up to his junior year in school there. Some of y'all have memories there. Patricia, did you teach there? Yeah. Your whole school, 1st through 12th grade. Your daddy helped build the gym that disciples are going to be made in very soon. And that's something. Yeah. Yeah, they're talking about that glorious thing right there. Okay, so I take back my abandoned insane asylum joke that I made Now that I know your dad built it, my bad.
He meant that it looks great.
It's really nice.
It's
Well, hey, to give him some credit, we have had engineers upon engineers in that building, and every one of them said, this place ain't going anywhere. It's built like a fort. This is gonna be a perfect place for a church. So hats off to your dad for building that. Praise God. Little did he know, this 1942 bomb shelter of a school was gonna be a church that's gonna be making disciples for generations. It's pretty cool. That's probably a loose flyover without repreaching the whole sermon. That's kind of how we arrived at this conclusion. Let me reiterate. Money did not make our decision. We were not looking at spreadsheets trying to discern the voice of God. We were asking God, what do you want us to do? Because we know that if it's the Lord's will, it's the Lord's bill.
right.
So we just wanted to know what he wanted. That's it. And so it's just incredible how it worked out. And we closed on this property in all her glory. There's 3 adjacent buildings that are almost identical to that one. We closed on this whole property for $200,000 from South Florida State College, which was a miracle in and of itself. I told more of the story. You can listen back on the sermon. And the grass is worth more than what we paid for the entire property. So it's really just a miracle.
You can't buy an apartment for that.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Not nowadays. Man, look what God has done. One of the many miracles. So, hold on just a sec. Race, you're up, buddy. Now will be a good time for. So here's the microphone is on, Brian. Look at this real quick, Brian. Patricia, watch me. The microphone is on, but you need to unmute it right here. Turn that one green too. Okay. There you go.
Okay. Did you purchase the library where the old library was, on the right side of the gym?
Good question. So no, we purchased all of the white buildings. So there's the large gymnasium facility, and there are 3 adjacent buildings that look just like the library, essentially.
Okay.
Those are all also Grace.
So the ones on the south side?
Yep.
Or the east side and the west side?
The one that is currently the e-learning lab, that's
Okay.
Grace. So we have just taken on their contract. Their contract ends at the end of this school year with us. Is that right?
Yeah. Right now, as of now, that their contract with them has been renewed to the year. They just had new owners too. So for the meantime, they will at least be there for a year.
Yeah, we gave them 1 more year.
Which is another answer to prayer, because they need a place to be, and we're not in a rush to get them out. And they're great tenants.
We got to pay to mow the grass and keep the water on, the lights on. So they're essentially giving us a
Covering
net
that.
zero
Yeah.
on all that.
Yeah, and so that building is that one, too. If you're facing the church, it's on the left, and then it's the 2 buildings on the other side of the building, the 2 white buildings on the other
Okay.
side.
That was the library and the elementary
Yep.
on the other side.
Yeah, and for those of y'all that aren't familiar with the property, even buildings like this one were used all the way up until we entered into negotiations. I mean, this was the library. When we walked around with the president of the college, it was still in working order. So other than the gymnasium, though they be hideous, buildings have air conditioning in them, bathrooms. I mean, they've got to be updated, ADA compliant and all that, but they're all functioning buildings that we'll be able to redesign for our purposes. So we have a huge head start on this project.
Yeah, and this is that front building. This one would be our kids ministry, and then the one behind it would be our student ministry. Which our student ministry room is theoretically ready to go. We could do ministry in there today. Obviously, the goal is as we're moving towards ministry happening, we want to kind of meet with some consultants and see what they think. But there's potential that as we're planning ahead and preparing, that we start to start in something with a midweek ministry. Those are things that we're kind of messing with. We're not there yet. That's another unknown. But there may be a day that we may not need to start. We may not start our church until 2027, January 1st, hypothetically. But there may be days that we may start midweek ministries just like this, prayer gatherings just like this in some of the places that we can. Obviously, we do know it's going to become a construction war zone, so you have to make sure what are you allowed to do, not do. We also don't want people running around in the construction war zone, falling, and then we won't own a church anymore. We won't own this church anymore. So we want to make sure that we're kind of honoring that. But yeah, the goal is we would love to get ministry happening as soon as possible, not to put any carts before any horses, but this is just kind of like us kind of figuring it out as we kind of unveil all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, some different soft launch options that we'll wrestle through as elders for sure. As it pertains to launching, one of the questions that you may have is when, and we're being told, And if any of y'all have ever built anything, you know how this goes. We're being told fall of 26, which is right around the corner, or worst case scenario, we're being told is January of 27. So pretty close. I mean, I've already talked to somebody about, hey, we need to have a Grace Lake Placid float in the Christmas parade with all y'all on it, waving, and, maybe put Dave and the guitar and a drum kit on there and just say, what's up, coming soon.
That's right.
That'll be fun. But we're talking about that too. So if anybody wants to build that for us, holler. It'd be a great
If
way
you
to
get passionate about building floats, give me a call. Send me an email.
Yeah. Okay, hands up, and Brian will bring you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my question is, what are we going to do about parking? There's not a whole lot. You've got that strip that's on the street, and
Yeah.
not a lot in the back, so.
I wish I didn't think about bringing a Google Earth image, but that's part of what we're working through with the rezoning with the town. That was one of the questions that's come up if y'all watch the town meeting online. Believe it or not, Deanne, there's more parking than what meets the eye. Our private parking is only about 45 spaces. If you watch, and Dana, the town planner, said there's only 45 spaces, which actually meets the town requirement. But we went out there and counted them off. Public parking on Interlake on both sides, which is Sunday morning, so it's a low traffic area, so both sides of Interlake. The private parking behind our facility, and we have a shared parking agreement with the college, so we have a strip of 10 more parking spots. It comes up to about 163 parking spots, which statistically speaking would be accommodating to, I think it's 3 to 1 on average, 2.7 to 1 or something like that. So technically we could have 500 people at a service, which we won't, we don't think. We will start with 2 services. Day one, there'll be 2 services, day one. So we'll be splitting, whether it's 100 people or whether it's 500 people, it's gonna be split between 2 services. So the parking shouldn't be an issue. Not to mention, we can run it all the way down Interlake if we have to, which would only benefit any businesses that happen to be open, which we hope that they close and, come get saved and all that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and the goal behind this is Dustin's kind of cast vision for this, so we understand we're not in the business of creating the next big church, the next mega church. We don't want to even necessarily say we want to be the biggest church in Lake Placid. So the goal is, as soon as we start to realize and feel the tensions of Lake Placid being too big, air quotes, we're going to be ready to jump down to the next one. Not that the goal is that we plant 25 churches, but man, God has been abundantly clear that we're going to continue to love the areas that God has trusted us with. So if it is a church, if it becomes a church, it's not going to become a church of 1,200. It literally won't be able to house that. But the goal is that if it does immediately off the gate become that large, we're going to start immediately doing what we need to send these people out, or to start to find ways to either increase services temporarily if we have to, until we're at a place to where we really are just kind of saying, hey, no, if this is the case, God, if you're sending us 500 people day one, it's 500 people 6 months in, all right, cool, we hear you, it's time. Like, we're going to start moving towards the next steps. We're not saying that's guaranteed or right away. We don't have any other future plans other than that, but we are trusting God and in through that, and that's been something that we understand. We don't want to build this in Lake Placid. It's going to have all the DNA of Sebring, but we're not building another airplane hangar so that we can house as many people as possible. That's not the goal for us.
And that's a biblical conviction. We in this season, our elders hold a deep conviction that bigger warehouses will not create more effective ministry. We need smaller gatherings where people can build relationships, where people can know one another, be able to be the church together. Y'all, I feel like I'm herded in and out of here like cattle, and I'm in charge of something here, It's like it's so much movement, so fast. We're always in a hurry. We want to slow down, get smaller, get more personal, more intentional, so people can really grow in their relationship with Jesus Christ and one another, which is our mission. Oh, hey. Oh, Dan the Wizard's back there on the computer. So that's perfect. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you know what you're looking at. The big eyesore on Interlake is building 400. That's the gym. Directly to the right is a long facility with 4 large classrooms that have bathrooms in them. That's currently the e-learning lab. That's also Grace Lake Placid. To the left, where the South Florida State College emblem is. That will be the Grace Kids Children's Center. That's being redesigned. Now down here, it looks like parking, but it's just a gray roof. That is another building that'll be the Student Center. And so you can just step back and think about parking. All of these parking spots, plus a strip of grass parking spots, plus both sides of Interlake, give us the 163 number. Thank you. Y'all are quick to the trigger back there.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Hey, so I'm so proud to be a part of this church. I work at that college and didn't know about Easter Sunday. So thank you for coming, because that's why I'm here. There's a spot across the street, too. I don't know if the school board owns that, but you might consider checking that one lot between those two buildings across the street.
Like it's a grass lot?
That might be extra.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
we-
if the school board owns that, because they have that whole chunk. Thanks, Deanne, for bringing that up.
Yeah, we've looked at surrounding properties as possible, having to acquire the land to turn it into parking. But like Etienne said, if that would be so temporary, because we don't believe that a church of 1,000 people is what's going to serve Lake Placid best. So one of the reasons why we're so specifically praying to be able to do this project debt-free, to stay debt-free, is we always want to plant pregnant is kind of our terminology. We always want to be a loaded gun once we've planted, because we know if there is exponential growth, we need to turn around and do it again wherever that growth is coming from, so that, God bless you, we're sending you to a smaller church to have community and relationships and family, and then you walk into church with 600 people and you're like, what in the world just happened? Yeah. We never even had a chance to have our smaller church yet to be more effective as a community. So but that's kind of a big hallelujah goal, and that's going to require a lot of resources from the Lord to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I think, and as we continue to do that, as questions pop up, we could dig into a few other things. I did want to cover, and I'll go ahead and ask the question, and then while you're thinking about questions, one of the things that I did want to bring clarity on, because I think this is a question people might have. I know you explained it, but you could explain a little detail. What the vision behind simulcast teaching versus.
Oh, you want to go there?
I'll talk about the service layout. You just tell us a little about
You're
that.
gonna
Unless
roll
you
the
want me to
grenade
start.
out there now?
I'll start. I'm ready to roll the grenade. It's 6:26, man. We got plenty of time to hash it out from here.
There's a question right there.
Yeah.
If we want to wait on the grenade.
We'll wait on the grenade then. You chew on it.
I'm all about grenades. Let's do it. You mentioned Abide. So how is this affecting, if at all, our relationship with all of the Abide churches?
Great question. So Etienne and I met with the Lake Placid Pastoral Association last Thursday, but that is not the first time we've met with them. We have been planting seeds along the way to say, hey, it's coming, here's our intentions, so that they understand we're not aiming for already church people. That would be a waste of money and time. We're not even doing it to make our Lake Placid church family more comfortable. We're doing it to better locate this army of people to be able to more effectively reach their community with the gospel, have that equipping station nearby. It's helpful, let's be honest. I mean, coming up here on a Wednesday night was tough enough for some of y'all, because it's just pick your kids up from school, you're done with, it's just impossible to be a part of anything more than Sunday, And so that was, what was cool about that is after we vision cast for that, 2 of the local pastors stood up and said, hey, we affirm everything that Dustin and Etienne just said. We've seen it. We've seen them serve other churches, even in our community like Faith Baptist. We know that Grace does not exist for the purposes of being a corporation competing for market share. We really are a collaborative church. I had a lunch with one of the pastor of Lakeview Church today. Used to be the Methodist Church. David Mullins, we had lunch together today. He's a big advocate for what's happened. He was the one that spoke up first and said, you need to trust these guys. What God is doing there is authentic, and they have no intentions of rocking any of our boats. They just want to serve and help us. When the tide rises, all ships will too. And then we had one of the pastors from First Pres then spoke up. They were unprompted, by the way. I should have teed them up, but I didn't. Unprompted said, man, no, this is real. We're excited about this. This is not only going to serve all of us, but this is going to reach more people in the community and help us reach more people. And so not everybody's excited about it. I'll say that. But some of the key stakeholders are, South Oak has been our biggest advocate since day one. Keith and I had met and prayed for over a year before we had even started having this conversation with our elder teams. South Oaks, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the South Oak guys are there opening day. You know, like our partnership with them, it runs very deep. And part of our prayer is that from an abide standpoint is that other churches would see God do such a significant thing that it would reframe their strategy for responding to church growth. You know, and start moving towards multiplication, church planting, stuff like that.
Well, you know what's really cool about that too is Emmy actually shared this with us. If you always see her in the front, she's awesome. She was sharing with us that this couple Wednesday nights ago, the youth groups locally are exploding right now. There's a lot even before the Charlie Kirk thing, before all this stuff. Like it wasn't like that was a response to that. It was weeks before that. We had 140 over here. South Oak had 135 in their youth group. Youth group in Wauchula was 120. That's insane. And what that told us was that there are plenty of youth, there are plenty of children, there are plenty of families who are going unreached in the LP area. In fact, as you all know, a couple weeks ago, just like post 9/11 or post any type of tragedy that happens in the political world, people run to church. Last weekend, church attendances were through the roof. Youth pastors were texting me, hey, did y'all have way more people than usual? We're like, yes, always, right? Like it's crazy. But here's the deal. The cool thing about all that aside is it just reminds us that those churches, especially Keith and those guys at that committee, some of them are real small churches now. Some of them are churches of 30 people, and they are like, man, we are excited. Any way we can serve you, let us know. And it's, again, not everyone's going to be on board, obviously, but we do obviously know that we've just led with the spirit of, hey, we're not here, and we're going to send your people home, all right? Because when your deacons or your people start trying to roll up on our shore and we say, where did you come from? Here because someone offended me, don't worry, we're going to offend you too eventually. Y'all been here long enough.
Oh, yeah,
Most of y'all been
send
here
them
long
back.
enough. We've offended all of y'all plenty much. Y'all just like to stick around, but
And one of the things that you can count on us doing too is we will be walking towards those local pastors of influence over the next year and a half, taking them out to meals, spending time with them, serving them. And I can tell you one of our primary areas of emphasis is we want to be very intentional about engaging the leadership in Highway Park. Like that is a non-negotiable for us. That's one of his high marks, high responsibilities is we will have collaboration and partnership with Highway Park. We're going to bridge that gap in the Lake Placid community, and that'll be. And I tell you, it's crazy. We started praying that, and God already started doing the work. One of the football coaches called us and said, "Man, God, literally, we started praying it on Sunday." The elders, you can walk upstairs. We have a list of specific prayers we're praying about Lake Placid. On Sunday, we started praying, Lord, supernaturally, we want to see Grace and a collection of churches bridge the gap to Highway Park. That was Sunday. Tuesday, I get a call from one of the football coaches. Man, Pastor Dustin, man, God's really convicted me out of the blue. Like, I feel like I need to start talking to some of these football players, particularly our kids that are in Highway Park, and just start inviting them to church. Well, and I don't know if you've been to Grace 10 o'clock service anytime in the last 6 weeks. There's about 25 of them. Football players, all walks of life, bunch of kids coming from Highway Park. And we're starting to see the building blocks of that bridge being built through students and student ministry. The next step is families naturally, but then it's like we haven't even really started yet and the bridge is already being built. And so we want to continue to capitalize that. I know Etienne and Scott have even spoken with some of the football coaches and leaders. Jaden's working with them about discipling them on how to disciple the kids. So we see, once again, God has already gone before us. We hadn't even put a plan together to do it. And God says, well, I've been just waiting for y'all to catch up with what I was already doing. And so we've got probably a dozen student athletes from Highway Park hauling all the way up here to Grace Bible Sebring every week. And imagine what's going to happen when we're down there. And isn't that cool? And the coaches that have been driving them up here, one of them was out of state one Sunday. Tried to rush back to get here in time, couldn't get here in time to get the kids. They said, hey, coach, don't worry, we got a ride. They brought themselves up here. You know, so we might be tapping y'all on the shoulder to pick up kids and bring them to be a part of community. So God's doing a good thing. Keep going.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about that Highway Park instance in the football team is, man, the coaches are all coming now. They're here on Sundays during that 10 a.m. service because This is what our plea too to our people when we're saying be missional, when we're saying if you can find another service or if you can even scoot in, because those are the people who are coming to our 10 a.m. It's 12 football players that take up 2 seats each, big boys. And but yet this is a service they can make it to, because the one's too early, the other one's too late. It messes with plans. Man, these guys, man, they are crushing it. And when I say, like, he called me and he's like, hey, can we start a youth group down here? We'll have 100 kids in there the first night. And I'm like, I believe you.
The principal called me
I
on
believe
Monday.
You. Yeah, I believe you. I'm like, we're down. Give us some time. Let us get our footing. But man, we cannot wait. Trust me, we cannot wait till we can open these doors for ministry. There are hoops you have to jump through. There are things that we want to get set, because we don't want to do anything half-cocked. We want to be full running forward. And again, with consultants, with people, as we kind of figure this out. But man, no one is more hungry than Lake Placid. And no one is more excited than the young people and what we're going to get to do there. And many of you who we've had conversations with even in the last week or so.
If you're thinking it so is somebody else, don't worry about embarrassing us. Trust me, we're ready to answer all the hard questions. Let's fire away. It's a good time to get it out on the table.
Thank you, Brian. I'm Jackie Moore. I live in Lake Placid. This is my husband, Tim. I'm going to pull the pin on the grenade.
Pull the pin. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I just want to understand, if I heard correctly, that the elders have decided to simulcast the message in Lake Placid. And I understood the reasoning behind it, but I'm of that age group that I'm going to ask, are we occasionally going to have a live pastor in the pulpit to talk to message with us?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a great question, because one of the main things that we had known going into this, the big thing about simulcast is, and I'll let him give you vision for that. I'll share you what your experience would be if you walked into Lake Placid on a Sunday morning. It's going to be this. I know he said this. Everything's going to be live. So when you walk in, there's going to be greeters and first impression. There's going to be children's ministry. There's going to be Bible studies. There's going to be classes. All the things you experience here on a Sunday are all the same. That doesn't change. In fact, every week now, your pastor, in the case, will be me. And what that'll look like is I will host every service. That means when we're doing sacraments, when we're doing opening and closing, when we're doing different things, it will be me administering those. You won't be watching the screen every time you're doing communion. It'll be a case that we might do it on our own. Worship will be live. Worship will always be live. It'll be the same thing you experience here. In fact, Dave Ritter just happens to live in Lake Placid, so I imagine he's going to want to be leading worship in Lake Placid a lot. But one of the cool things about all this is the only experience that changes for you is the preaching portion. Now, there will be certain weeks and occasions to where there will be live preaching, or I will do live preaching. For example, either off weeks or weeks that we have certain events coming up, or maybe we're doing something for Christmas or something for Easter. Those very much will and may be live. We don't know yet for sure. So there will be live teaching elements periodically.
Don't say live, say in person.
In person, you're right, because it is always live.
It's always live.
Yeah.
It's always live.
Yeah,
but sometimes it will be in person.
Correct. In person, that's correct. And so, but I'll let Dustin jump into those but your whole experience from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave is all going to be very much in person and real and hands-on. And the cool part is
y'all. I mean, that's part of, embracing that.
And the cool part is, selfishly, and this is one of the cool things about this whole model is you're going to have a campus pastor who's fully entrenched in doing life with you, that's not exhausted from standing on a stage for preaching for 35 minutes. I get to be fully present. I get to be fully available, and it's going to be awesome. Be sitting there right in the chairs with you, celebrating and doing life with you guys. And so that's kind of a little bit of the difference. Is my goal along the way is to be able to love people, lead people, share life with you guys in a more intimate, smaller context even. And so it's something that I am so excited about. I love people more than anything. I love doing life with people. I am, as you can tell, extroverted as it gets. It brings me life to be able to
That's why
talk.
I keep him around me.
That's right. Yeah, one thing I love is when you're a good extrovert, you need a good introvert friend, or you just annoy each other, but we're perfect for each other. But that's one of the main things about this. So I'll let him discuss the simulcast portion of it, but I want everyone to understand, and this is something we wanted to be clear about, is this, you are getting every bit of everything that you're getting here at Grace in Lake Placid. It just brings us to the live teaching being a little different.
Yes.
In person
So I tell
teaching.
you what, I think I have responses to most of what your questions might be as it relates to broadcast teaching, but just to make sure, and by the way, I'm not texting up here, I'm taking notes as y'all are talking, so I want to make sure I respond well. Any other questions as it relates to broadcast teaching that are different, go ahead and throw them out there. Let me just check my list, and then I'll do one comprehensive flyover of why the elders have landed there as the right move for Grace. Any other questions as it relates to that? Yes, ma'am.
I'm a fan of simulcast thing. I just want to put that forward, but you will have technical difficulties. So I just want to say Etienne
That means
has
he's
to be
got to be
prepared.
ready every week. No
Good
winging
news
it.
is I'm ready in and out of season,
so we're
baby.
gonna be
I always
ready
got
for the
something to talk
technical
about.
difficulties, so no biggie, right? Okay.
Yeah, he'll have my notes ahead of time. He'll be responsible to digest and internalize those. So in the event, which it will happen because technology will fail. Just curious, have you been a part of a multi-site church before we experienced simulcast? Would you put that microphone up so?
We used to go to Elevation Church with Pastor Furnick in North Carolina,
Okay.
and we were not at one of the places where he normally preached from.
Awesome.
You were at a multi-site?
We were at a multi-site.
Okay.
And after the first Sunday, you're used to looking at the screens, just like everybody's going to be used to it here.
Yeah. I tell you what I'm not used to is preaching here, watching y'all watch me there. That's been weird. I feel like I'm sitting there thinking like, this is pretty good. Why aren't they listening? I feel like I'm losing y'all, but really you're engaged with the 8-foot version because you can see my face and laugh at my good jokes. Did you see my facial expression? That's good. Thank you for that feedback.
I had one other thing.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
My name's Lori Hunter. This is my
Lori
husband, Rob.
Hunter? Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot what it was.
That's all right. We can come back. And again, we're just on any broadcast teaching questions, and then I'll do a quick flyover.
At what point can we put up a sign saying, coming soon, Grace Bible Church, Lake Placid?
Well, Steve, that is not what I asked, but since it's an easy thing to answer, I will say we have already ordered the signs. We have our last, we have the LPA meeting on October 6th, the last town council meeting on, I can't remember the date, but it's a Tuesday or Monday. JJ will already have the signs ready to be bolted into the concrete the very next morning. So it'll say Grace Lake Placid coming soon as we get the vote. Hold on now. Unless it's about broadcasting, I got to make you wait. We'll go for more questions later. Go ahead, John.
Well, since Etienne is going to be moving down there, you already live there, Dave already lives there. When are we going to do a simulcast from there back up here?
Okay, good question. I have that in my notes too, but I'll make sure I have something there.
It's a great question, honestly. As much as it is something we're definitely thinking about, he'll give some explanation on that too. Any other questions about simulcast? He's got like a large smorgasbord, so he'll catch anything else. But if there's any additional, we'll continue as well. We're not rushed here. We just wanted to make sure that you got it out, so as he's writing them down, he could blanket through them as well. Right up here, yeah.
So since you mentioned technical difficulties, and I'm an engineer, I'm just really curious. What is the technology you're planning to use for the simulcast? How do you plan to get it from point A to point B?
Good question. Let me write that down and try to answer a question you're going to have to email Dan. Just hold tight, Dan.
Dan's like, I'm ready. I'll tell you how we're going to do it.
That might be a conversation between you and engineer Chuck, okay? Yeah, I don't even think I'm going to try that one, Chuck, but good question, buddy. Any technical engineering questions, Dan and Cam Shingle may be able to answer after. So wave at them, guys. Yeah, technical engineering questions. I'm just going to leave that for one-on-ones. Okay, Dan.
Yeah, we'll let him write it down.
Production@gbc.life.
That's easiest.
And he'll explain it all to you.
Yeah, man, Dan has really shifted our way we do production here, man. It is incredible to see his brain work. If there's anyone that can do it, God has sent Dan here for the right time. Seriously, yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy turned the Allen J Arena into a full production of a live, like it was a miracle. A miracle.
He does a great work. So yeah, he would love that, and he loves those conversations. He'll sit down, and have coffee with you, breakfast with you. He'll probably invite your feedback if you got some things he'd love to share with him. He'd probably use all the help he can use. So we appreciate that for sure.
Broadcast teaching questions before I do my best to answer a lot of the things that you might be thinking about broadcast teaching. If you're thinking it, so is somebody else. Go ahead and fire away. Yes, sir.
So when will you have architectural drawings?
That's not
All right, let me answer broadcast teaching. And then this table, thanks, Steve, for your leadership. And then we'll loop back around. Okay, let me just fire away at broadcast, and then we'll come back to architecture and whatever Steve was brewing up over there. The idea of broadcast teaching, we have wrestled over since the beginning. And we have met with people all over the country, from Atlanta to literally the potato fields of Idaho. When we were first, we're sitting in these seminars and conferences and trainings on, what's the best practices for church expansion, multi-site, church planting, whatever. All the people that are teaching it are the guys that are writing the books, are the guys with the massive churches in 25 locations. Well, they're also coming from major metropolitan areas, and we're raising our hands saying, yo, what about us out here? Like, we still tithe in chickens and goats. We can't just be having church on a TV screen. I mean, literally, people tithe here. Like, one of the ways one of the family tithes here is they literally give us 1/10 of their crop. And I don't mean they sell 1/10 and give us some money. I mean, they give us 1/10 of their crop, and we watch the market, and then we hit sell. So it's like, that's how it is around these parts. So we knew broadcast teaching was going to be a bit of an abrupt and uncomfortable idea for our context. So for several years, 2 years, we wrestled over this. We met with metropolitan churches. We met with rural churches from around the country. We spoke with a pastor who's a church in Idaho. A church of 3,000 people with 13 locations. We're talking about tiny. We're talking about, 150 people tops at a location. They use broadcast teaching out in the Idaho potato fields. Spoke with a pastor in Pennsylvania who has 22 locations in the mountains of the Alleghenies. There are massive church now, but 22 locations, and they've employed broadcast. And I was talking to him like, man, how this can't work in rural communities. He says, not only can it, but I'm telling you, Dustin, this is the way to go. That didn't make our final answer. We took our whole elder team and pastors and staff to a whole weekend training seminar on best practices from leaders around the country, churches around the country, and the message was the same. Guys, we've tried it with live teaching. Guys, we tried to hire someone from the outside. Guys, we grabbed the seminary grad, but at the end of the day, I'll just take it from the top. Multi-siting, for those of us out here in the hills, that's probably a new concept to us. The idea of multi-siting is well over 20 years old. I mean, we just heard from a family coming from North Carolina that this has been a part of the culture in those areas. Have any of y'all come from a multi-site church context, even if you were at the main environment? Okay, so this is not a new thing. As a matter of fact, 60% of churches that are over 1,000 in weekend attendance have already moved towards a multi-site model. 60%. So we're kind of, and the reason why is the days of the arena church have come and gone. Even in metropolitan areas, no one wants to go to these massive arenas with 60,000 people and call that church. They want to be a part of their community. They want to know their pastors and their staff. They want to have a job. They want to be a part of what's going on. So even we were sitting there with the pastors of First Baptist Atlanta, massive church right here in Florida. And he was talking about, he's sitting right next to us, and he says, guys, a lady left her keys in the sanctuary. And so we had to send our staff in there to go get the keys. And I told the staff, you will not turn on the lights in that room. Take a flashlight. It cost them $500 just to turn on the lights, just to turn them on. The days of the arena churches have come and gone. Multiplication, which we believe was always Jesus's model. The old covenant says, come and see. The new covenant says, go and tell. So we want to move our people and resources towards multiplication. Now, as churches have done that, and as we have met with these churches I'm telling you, innumerable churches around the country, we have learned from the statisticians that have been tracking this over the last 20 years. Churches that have growth like ours, that have large pockets of growth. So it's not like planting a church in an area you don't have people. We're putting a church in an area where we already have a massive gathering, 400 or 500 people. in that situation, those churches that decided, no, you know what, in our context, there needs to be an in-person teacher. The campus pastor is going to be the every Sunday in-person teaching pastor. Those churches were 4 times more likely to fail over the last 20 years, 4 times more likely to fail. Not because of him, but because a lot of the primary DNA of the culture, whether we like it or not, happens when we gather here and somebody has a microphone wrapped around their head. It just begins to take on the personality of that church. We don't want it that way, but it just is that way. It just carries a lot of weight. So 4 times more likely to fail after opening if they decided, you know what, we're going to have an in-person teacher. It's going to be one of the other pastors. Another statistic is the churches that just embraced the broadcasting model grew 60% faster than the others. So that's reaching 60% more people all that more quickly. Now, some of the reasons why that's a reality is things like shared experience. We have some great teachers here at Grace. And we have served multiple churches by having a rotation of our teachers bouncing all around Central Florida on any given weekend. But if we had, for example, teaching through the book of Romans or learning how to discern the voice of the Holy Spirit like this past weekend, if we had myself and Etienne and Steve Trinkle all teaching the same sermon in 3 different locations, we're going to have 3 very different experiences. Doesn't mean that they'll be bad experiences, but it's not a shared experience. It's not something that we run into each other at the grocery store and say, man, like God really spoke to me in that. Because you will not have heard the same thing that your other church family heard. It's a totally different experience. It maintains the DNA of the church and the replication. Let's call it what it is. According to our records, and y'all know many people in your area, if you're coming from Lake Placid, that either are at Grace or want to be a part of Grace. You're driving past 50 different churches to come be a part of this. If you come to 10 o'clock, is a nightmare. And why in the world would you do that? I don't know why you do it. I don't know why it has done something to you, but there's something about the experience that you've had here. Maybe it's the teaching, maybe it's the worship, maybe it's the kids ministry. I don't know. There's something about that that causes you to go way out of your way to come be a part of something that's happening here, which would beg effectiveness for multiplication would be replication, not new creation. Replication, not new creation. So it's not a church plant situation where it takes on its own identity. It's a multi-site where it is Grace in Lake Placid. Something's working, and that's what needs to be replicated because it's being effective in reaching the community and even leading local churches. Broadcasting helps keep that tight because it's us having the same conversation as one church, marching in the same direction in any given weekend. Now comes a question of sustainability. Some of us were probably asking, but wait a minute, haven't we helped revitalize now 2 different churches that we spent like almost a year with and our teaching team was rotating around? Why can't we just do that? That makes sense, right? Keep in mind when we did church and will continue to do church revitalization, we stagger them back a week. So whatever I preached here this Sunday, I'll preach down there next Sunday. It creates sustainability. Keeps payroll low too. Because now we're not having to have another full-time preacher teacher that we're having to plan everything out to the word to make sure both locations are having that same or similar message together. And I would guess Lake Placid would really feel like a stepchild if they were a week behind what's going on at Grace Sebring. Nobody wants that. But it also, when I was speaking with the church at LCBC, this Pennsylvania church, it's all throughout rural Pennsylvania, and I said, brother, I have a real heartburn about creating a cult of personality. I don't want to have more locations propped up against the central personalities of Grace. That's not healthy for the church. He says, without realizing it, if you don't broadcast, you actually create one. If you decide to have live teaching and you start popping around, or whoever your primary teaching group starts popping around, folks will begin to, whenever let's say the lead pastor shows up to another location, they're going to lift their eyes off their campus pastor and say, the pastor's here. No, the pastor is already here. The teaching pastor of Grace, or the lead pastor of Grace, is broadcasting in a sermon. Another reality that he shared with me, he said, Dustin, do you feel like this is probably going to result in more than one location? I said, from all the numbers and statistics we're looking at, it may already have. We may already be looking at a third location, and within a certain amount of years, maybe a fourth. He says, all right, think about that for just a second. While you're opening up a second location, it seems easy enough to just have your teaching team rotate, bounce around, have the campus pastor do the primary preaching at that location. But what happens when you get to the third or the fourth location? I'm having the conversation with Grace's second location right now, Grace Lake Placid. What if this was our interest meeting for location number 3 or 4? And I was saying to you guys, okay, Grace Lake Placid has been a hit. It continues to grow. We're continuing to expand. What would you prefer for Sunday morning teaching? Would you rather we send you our 4th best available teacher of the weekend? Or would you rather hear our best available teacher every weekend? Now, keep in mind, when I say our 4th best available, I'm not saying our 4th best. Number 2 could be sick, and number 4 could be on vacation. You might get someone deep on the bench at location 3 and 4. We would instantly say, I would rather have like the best available teacher of the weekend for our experience, because we want to make sure when we bring our friends to church, they're also having a great experience.
And to pause there so everyone understands for context, he's not referring to himself as the best communicator. What he means by that is, what he means by that, I just want to, I hear you in the room, you're like, this guy, what?
My extroverted
What
friend
he's referring to is, as we're planning our teaching rotation, we intentionally will schedule certain speakers for certain topics because, man, God is just, they are really passionate about it. God speaks through them. I think of, what's the passage we always make Cameron preach because he just lives, is it Colossians or I can't remember. But there's certain, that's what he means by that. Like when we put people on stage, we're not going A, B, C, you're the third now, now it's time to go. He's implying that whoever's preaching this Sunday from the stage is the one that we believe God has called to preach that specific week and that specific sermon. That's what he means. So everyone understands he's not referring, he's number 1 and, I'm clearly number 2.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
I know what you mean, because I'm sitting here thinking like,
was I saying that?
No. I just want to make it clear that was not what he was saying at all. So anyone thinks that, man, Dustin's quite the opposite, man. He's so quick to hand the microphone. So to the people who are qualified to do so.
Well, yeah, we do that in our teaching team design is not like, all right, Dustin's out, so who's up? We're planned months in advance of who's teaching what sections. We'll have certain leaders teach certain sections by design. And so we want to make sure that that is also happening everywhere at the exact same time, by the exact same voice. So we're walking away with a shared experience in the Word of God together to be transformed together.
I didn't mean to throw you off there.
That was good.
I wanted to pause there to make sure.
Well, that actually comes to.
I didn't want no sound bites for when on the internet.
Yeah, I know
that
somebody's
says,
gonna grab that and throw that up.
Dustin
So this, so now that kind of speaks to Etienne. Like, imagine. I'll be honest with you, Sunday comes every 15 minutes from me. Okay, it's not a week away. It's already here. It's a complex thing to have a large growing church, because in part I spent a lot of my week in preparing to minister to the broad swaths of the body, trying to minister to and maintain building relationships with our team. And I spent a lot of time just as the CEO of the company. Obviously, we're not a for-profit business. That's not why we exist. But everything your company has to do, this company has to do. We've got all the same things. Our mission is leading people in a growing relationship with Jesus. Wouldn't it be amazing to be a part of a church family where the pastor actually had time to be a part of the things and the margin to be a part of the things that we wish they would? That's where campus pastors become so valuable in multi-site context. Is he's not running the organization. He's also not having to prepare compelling messages every week to try to reach the masses. He's able to be the champion of the Lake Placid community. He's able to be engaged at the sports complexes and your kids' graduation parties, and being at things like Chamber of Commerce luncheons, and just the things like we want the presence of our leaders at. Campus pastors get the latitude to be able to do that, not to mention just building relationships and being in people's lives, because they're not having to run from one corporate obligation to the next. It really opens up some beautiful opportunities for the life and the ministry of those multi-site campuses to thrive even better than the main, not the sending location, we'll say. And that's why they've taught us, Those first few locations, you have campus pastors and team members that are assigned to that campus. But once you hit to that third and fourth location, then Grace Sebring will actually get its own campus pastor, who is the champion of this body, who is immersed in the lives of the people, who is showing up to the things, so that I can continue to be the lead pastor of whatever Grace is at that point. And again, that's coming from the knowledge of guys that have been doing this around the country. Now that brings me to, well, what about reverse broadcast? Great question. I've actually, do not hold me to this because I can't guarantee this, but I want you to know it's on our mind. What about broadcasting from Lake Placid to Sebring? Is that also a possibility? So it's kind of it's more complex than to just say yes or no. I've actually asked Dan and the production guys to really put their heads together with some of our integration people that are experts on all of this stuff. Is it possible, particularly like for an opening weekend, or special events, to be able to broadcast opposite direction? The answer is yes, ultimately, but it's not as easy as a yes. If you'll look, for example, just behind you, those main cameras that capture the weekend experience, those things are bolted to the concrete. Part of that reason is because when I say a funny joke, and I oftentimes do, if that camera guy, y'all have watched online at home when you were sick or whatever, if that camera guy laughs, your TV's going like this. You know, or if I take a few, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a very delicate process to have a broadcast quality experience. We're not just holding up cell phones or camcorders over our shoulder to be able to make you feel like we're close to it. Roving cameras, things like that. So can it be done? Yes, but can it be done well? Not really. Unless we're able to invest in the payroll of the staff that know how to operate that level of equipment and frankly, purchase the equipment for all the locations. We did not go out and spend a couple $100,000 on broadcasting equipment to get ready for Lake Placid. But over the last 5 to 6 years, we have been slowly, incrementally improving our online experience. Some of y'all that watch online know, in preparation for what we knew was eventually coming. So we're just taking it in bites. To be able to replicate that at another location, to be able to send to other places, would be a significant investment to have that quality to be able to. So it's not out of the question. I'm still asking the geniuses to figure out a way to do it, but whether we can do it or not, I don't know. And it's not looking likely, I'll say it like that, for those reasons. I will say Craig Groeschel, he's the pastor of the largest church in the world. They have 50 locations. It was his typical strategy is they had broadcasting equipment at all 50 locations. And he would just pop up at who knows what location. Every Sunday, you never knew where Craig was gonna be. And then he realized that in doing that, he was actually undermining the campus pastors at those locations because daddy's home. And he was also, which is detrimental to the whole thing, the whole deal, when Etienne doesn't have the teeth to continue to maintain that authority in shepherding the body. But also he realized it's undermining the whole philosophy of broadcast engagement across the campuses because we're saying the best campus to be at is the one that Craig pops up at. No, the best campus to be at is the one where your family and friends are going. Who cares where Craig is? We're going to hear him teach, or whoever the main teacher of the weekend, teach from wherever they're broadcasting from. We start to reshift our values from being around the personality of the pastor to being around the community that God has called us into. Another reason why I like it personally, I told the LCBC guy, when I just had a one-on-one conversation with him, that's why I keep bringing him up. I said, man, the whole cult of personality thing, I don't feel comfortable with that. This is just weird. I said, Lake Placid is where I live. Those are my people. I got a grocery shop there. It's just strange. And he, shoot, where was I going? That was it'll come back to me. Anything to add?
I think I agree with that completely. It's the importance of understanding that this is our home. And Dustin said this before, but this is the truth. We're not planning a church to make church in Lake Placid better for you. Honestly, please understand this. We don't care about what you, not in that way. We care about you. We don't care about that preference because the goal is.
Not a convenience move.
If people that we're inviting, this is so that your family and friends can go to church down the road. If they're unchurched, this is their only church experience. They're not going to care whether it's on a TV screen or not, because they don't know any better. And the people that we are attracting are those type of people. And so we're not saying that you shouldn't hate your experience. We don't want anyone to hate their experience. But ultimately, we do know that there will be some people in LP that will continue to drive up here for that aspect. That's fine. That is your choice. But for those that say, man, God has called me to die to myself, to curb my liberties, to even, dare I say, not die on my preferences, this is not a big deal. This is still the same powerful live preaching. This is the same powerful preaching that we're experiencing. It's just going to be on a screen that you guys are already watching anyways. Everything else is just as much Jesus and the Holy Spirit and you guys and us as we get to experience life together. In fact,
well, you hit on actually what I had slipped my mind in my old age,
Was that it?
It was close.
Now people can see your gray on
I'd
here.
ask that pastor and
They
my
stopped
balls,
calling you
man.
young
These,
man.
these better cameras, I got us hairspray much more carefully now because y'all can see me for real.
The other
I'm
day,
fully exposed.
The other day we had somebody reach out about a speaking engagement. Dusty said, "I think I can make time for that." They said, "No, we want we want the young guy Etienne." And I said,
Warner University. I'm a graduate. He hasn't even been to college yet. He just started theological seminary. And I was like, I went to Warner, and they're like, oh, no, we were talking about Etienne.
Yeah, we've been
You're too old."
Etienne. I said, I mean,
way.
fine. They
No,
saw
really?
the live stream and saw his gray.
That's disrespectful.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah, so I asked that pastor when I was talking to him about man, I want to make sure that it's not about the personalities of grace. We want to make sure it's about multiplication and making disciples. And he had said, when you move towards multi-site, who are you trying to reach? Why are you expanding into the Lake Placid location? You've heard us preach it over and over again. It's not about making our current church folk more comfortable. It's about putting them in a position to make it easier to engage the people you're trying to engage. And he said, what are your fears? I said, well, honestly, one of my biggest fears in the whole thing is I don't want folks from other churches coming to Grace because it's the new shiny thing that's happening. We want this to, like I said, signal growth and health in other churches in our community. And he says, all the more reason why you need to broadcast. He said, what's the lifelong faithful church member of such and such church down the street gonna do when they walk into the room at Grace because they're tired of the stuff going on at their church, or they've had leadership changes or whatever. And so here they come sniffing around to the new fancy thing, trying to find a new home. What are they gonna do when they walk in there and they have a great experience being greeted and the worship experience, and then the preacher pops up on a screen? What are they gonna do, Dustin? I said, they're gonna go right back where they came from. He said, exactly. He said, if this is not about reaching more church people, then what does it matter? Because the unchurched and de-churched people are watching their whole lives through a screen. And if the purpose is engaging people with the gospel and the most effective means that you have available, this serves you on multiple fronts. So that was another big apologetic for that. All right, that's enough. That's all I knew to respond to on that. Any clarifying questions as it relates to that, or should we move into architectural designs? And it is 7:05. Anyone that's heard what they need to hear, you're welcome to go, and we can hang around as long as whoever wants to hang around.
So I just wanted to say that we came from upstate New York, and that church that we were at started to multiply, but it wasn't for, they were trying to get more people. They weren't multiplying for us to bring more people. And eventually, as they multiplied, we started looking for another church.
Yeah.
When we came here, we came to this church, and we liked the preaching, not just the preacher, but the teaching from everybody here. So we decided to move to Lake Placid because of the church. And when we were still in New York, we live streamed. So watching it on video is going to be just like watching it on live stream.
To a degree it will be, but for those of you who are thinking, shoot, I can just pull up YouTube at my house, we are improving the experience, as you can see. And it'll be very different than just watching it at home. Certainly not the least of which is the community of the body being together. Like, that is irreplaceable. When Ansley and I were on sabbatical, we actually went and visited 2 multi-site churches because I'd never seen it before. And it was a little weird at first, but I could tell you within about 10 minutes, I had totally forgotten that I was watching a sermon on a screen because I was greeted by the pastor. We met some of the staff. We checked Marigold into the children's ministry. The children's ministry leaders are texting us and emailing us still. I said, take me off your stuff. We're not visitors. We're just, snooping around. And But yeah, it was cool. We were blessed. We probably would not attend a church that size if we were looking for a church, but we were blessed with because that was a location of over 1,000 people. We'd be looking for a location of a few hundred so we could know somebody. So that's some good stuff right there. While we're waiting on another question, just throw your hand up. Architectural designs are in the works. Once it's done and we actually get the hard numbers, we're still in the bidding out process, trying to settle on who the GC is going to be. Once that's done, we've got hard numbers. We'll put the renderings all that out in the lobby of the, we'll throw the renderings up of like, this pretty stuff. We'll throw the floor plans out there, anything that you might want to see, to have access to, just to look around, pray over. So that'll be coming. I would imagine before Christmas we'll have all that stuff, because I believe they are intending on starting construction Q2 of next year is the intent. So soon, very soon. Yeah, Q&A can keep happening, but if you have kids, you might need to go get them.
You can bring them back here if you want to.
Yeah,
we
sure.
don't mind.
Just don't let them sneeze on the silverware,
Yeah.
please.
At least not mine.
Go ahead.
I had a comment more than a question. I'm going to say, when I go to Athens, to watch the great University of Georgia Bulldogs beat down on folks, you sit in that big old stadium and you love being there. You love being in there, and you love being in that environment, and you love being with everybody there. But you always end up watching the Trinitron because you can't see what's going on. And I watch it here in church. And since you put these up here, I watch everybody. They're looking up there anyway. So I don't think it's going to be that big a deal when we get down there and we're looking up here, because they're doing it anyway already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that is all part of an intentional plan. It's not to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but it's like, hey, if the digital environment is going to have to become more central to our experience, Grace Sebring needs to get used to it too. Everybody does. And see the value of being able to feel a little closer to the action. I stand over here during worship, and all I get is the profile of the stage, but now I can actually see when Dave is ministering and speaking. I can see the faces of Jackie when she's singing the heavens down. It like moves me. Whereas before I couldn't really see her. And unless you're 6'5", and you're standing out in the crowd, you probably can't see much either. But now it kind of brings you right up to the experience. And that's the goal. It's to make it more personal, not more production. It's never production for the sake of production. It's always production for the sake of engaging more intimately is why we're doing that.
And some of the cool things about that is you have to remember this, many, many years ago, this place was built to be what it was. Man, we're building this Lake Placid with the goal of a large lobby space where people can commune together, where we can enjoy coffee together, we could sit together, we're not rushing in and out, as well as we're building the layout of the sanctuary with simulcast in mind. So it's going to be all geared towards a specific great experience of seeing the live teaching done that way. So you can keep that in mind too, obviously, and you'll see some of that through the architecture stuff and architectural stuff. But yeah, we're building this around the goal that we're aiming to accomplish, and so that's going to make it an experience like no other for sure.
Any other questions? Dan, I'm trying to pull up the main rendering, not the main rendering, but the rendering that's just of the main building there, but it's not working. There you go, okay. For some reason it's not, yes, sir.
The past couple of weeks, you've been telling us the answer to the question is, I don't know. So I'm expecting that answer now. Do you have any preliminary, I know you're getting QC, you're getting bids out there, any idea what the budget's going to be for this venture?
Yeah, so we are working with, so that we have an intermediary working on our behalf with the architect, because architects don't care how much it costs. They're just designing whatever's in your head. And we don't know what we're asking for. So we've got someone who's working on our behalf to make sure that the architectural designs stay in budget. The budget that we have given them is about $3.5 million, which if you remember back to the original numbers I told you is a significant cost savings on what our other options were. Hey guys, I'm sorry that it costs $3.5 million to do a facelift. But I can't imagine to go from the ground up. I told you what the figures were on that. It's just, it's not what it was. It cost us $500,000 just to add those handful of classrooms upstairs here. It's just unbelievable, the cost of construction these days. So something I'll tell our church family once we get there is, so it's going to come in somewhere around 3.5 because that's what we told them, and we have people working on our behalf to make sure that's what it comes in. That includes everything, including audio, visual, lighting, everything. What that does not include is irrigation, landscape, grass, stuff like that. So that will be an itemized thing if someone wanted to give specifically towards or take on entirely that's not in the budget. But some of the good news is I told you we're entirely debt free. That's one of the best things. Even if we had no money in the bank, we owe nobody anything. That's good news. Let's start there. All right, praise God for that. When we paid off this property, this is a 5-acre tract, and that's a 15-acre tract next door. We paid off all of this property about 8 years ago and continued to pay ourselves a mortgage payment on that. And we always budget under what anticipated giving is the following year. So we always have margin in the black. We've always run in the black at Grace, even in leaner years and very difficult years. So over these last 8 years, anything that comes in over and above what we budget for, we don't just go below. We actually save that aside in kind of our multiplication efforts, knowing that we want to sow that seed in what God is doing. So being debt-free, paid cash for the property, completely finished this build-out renovation, didn't do any capital campaigns on any of that. That's almost $1 million right there. We have had lots of expenses, as you might imagine, with engineering, architecture, consulting. We've brought in consultants that specialize in churches restoring historic buildings into churches. We want to get this thing right. All of those figures completely paid for, also still out of debt, still have not done any sort of capital campaign with the church family, and we still have managed to save about $2 million in the bank. So that 3.5 is effectively cut in half. We need to keep at least 5 to 7 in there just to be safe, contingency. Because we will have 2 locations we'll be running if we get hit with another COVID, if we have some major hurricane and one of them burns to the ground. So we're not going to be able to use all of that $2 million, but I want you to know we've got about $2 million in the bank that we've saved as a church family through your faithful giving. So even at $3.5 million, our capital campaign will probably be somewhere around $2 million to just cover the margin there, give us some wiggle room, get it done, and be completely debt free. And so it's a significant number, but it's not as significant as us saying we got to go for $4 million, baby. You know, we're going to go for 2, and we've already raised 2, and paid off almost $1 million worth of expenses up till this point. So we're in great shape. But I honestly am asking the Lord, and this is not some underhanded way of asking you. I'm saying, Lord, you have all the resources in the world. We never ever want to be bound up by debt, because it inhibits the mission. We know we have to make a move. We have to do something. We're not building a bigger building trying to reach more people. We're not, hoping that if you build it, they will come, in a sense. We're not multi-siting as a growth strategy. We're multi-siting as a response to growth. We have no choice. We got to do something. It's getting crazy around here. So God, you're all in this, and we're asking that we open those doors completely debt-free so we can be ready to turn around and do it again. So that's our prayer. Please pray that fast and pray that with us. So I know the Lord can do it without an issue. All
right. As it gets closer to getting down and dirty, are you going to do like Sign Up Genius for those people that want to come in and help clean, scrub, and that kind of stuff?
Good question.
Sign Up Genius, we use a lot at the college for any event. Then you can see Deanne, me, anybody.
Teach us more about that.
Okay, I will.
Kathy is actually our campuses coordinator. She'll be responsible for all the facility coordinating at both locations. Her knowing about something like that might be helpful.
Yeah, you can email. I would email office@gbc.life. Just say, hey, I was at the Q&A. Kathy will catch that. She's going to be the one that'll be able to navigate it. It's a great tool to know about. We appreciate that for sure. Yeah, that's the one thing that's really cool about all this process. Our staff, we are all working to become experts in what we do. We're creating standing operating procedures, and we're moving towards this. And so that's going to be a lot of the thing, too. It's going to be individual tasks. We may not know, but it's like Kathy's going to be the expert in her field, and she's going to work towards that. Dan's the expert in his field. We're going to trust him. And so that's one of the really cool things about this process. We have a great, what we call central team, and they're doing a great job now. And they're all eager and excited and ready, but we know that this is going to be a big bite to chew off. Multiplying. What we call is we're not what we're called replicating. We are not creating new. We're not sending people to create a new church in a new area. We're replicating. We are bringing the people of Grace to a church in Lake Placid to experience grace. That includes our staff. We're going to send some of our best. We don't know who yet, so all we know is me so far. But yeah, we will pick our best. There may be some people that you love here and staff people that have been here for a long time that we'll be sending them down to LP, or there may be great people that rise up in the ranks that you know of that are going to step right into this ministry and maybe run ministries voluntarily. Either way, we're really excited. Dude, I can't tell you the text messages and calls I've gotten this week and the last 2 weeks of people just like people that I highly revere, and I'm completely humbled by to say, if you're going, tell me what you need. I'm there. And I'm like, God, are you sure? I'm like, God, are you sure I'm your guy? I'm like, I would have picked him. And it's one of those moments, man, where I'm really excited for a lot of that. And with Dustin too, man, it's been really encouraging to get to hear from all that and all the excitement. There are concerns, sure, but overall the excitement's pretty awesome. So,
okay. Any last minute questions? And then we can get after Steve, we'll hit Judd, and then we'll just generally turn you loose, and anyone that wants to hang around and talk more, we can do that. So go ahead.
So the other half of my question is, could we put up a sign about the men's group that meets on Fridays? Because we have gentlemen from other churches already meeting us.
Here's my question for your men's group that meets on Fridays is, how in the world are y'all going to fit anymore, guys? Y'all have packed out every restaurant in town.
Well, what they're going to do with Glenda Jeans is we're going to move out to the main area.
Okay.
And the few people that come for early breakfast will sit in the ice cream shop where we meet now.
Well, let me do an ad for you right now. If you're a man that lives in Lake Placid and you want to engage in biblical community with other men, they meet every Friday morning at 7 o'clock.
At Glenda Jeans.
At Glenda Jeans right now. And it's an incredible group. I was actually speaking to David Brown just this afternoon about y'all's discussion tomorrow. And so, no, we won't put any advertising signs out there for the unique ministries of Grace. But we certainly, as we always do, we depend on the people. And again, everything we do is meant to multiply. So we don't want to create an institutional marketing strategy of putting signs out by the road. We want to equip people to tell their friends and invite them to come. A personal connection is always going to go a lot further. Mr. Shirley.
The midweek stuff, you're going to replicate some of that down there? Because discipleship, driving from Lake Placid up, on, Wednesday, then getting home, stuff. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so Wednesday nights will look just like a Wednesday night here. In fact, that'll be probably it'll be to a T. We will offer children's ministry, youth ministry. Like I said earlier in the conversation, we even may start some midweek ministries pre-opening of our Sunday services. Again, that's all preliminary in a lot of things. We hope that construction goes great. It may not, right? But as for now, there's one of the buildings that we could do ministry in if we needed to, once we start the ball rolling. That'll all be kind of based on a plan and organization. But yeah, your Wednesday night ministry, there will be times we will have re-engage classes up there. It's going to be the same things. It's going to be for Lake Placid people. And there'll be large group, and I may be teaching a lot of those. I may be teaching a class. Like, that's the cool part about me being freed up as well for Wednesday nights is, I'll be available to help lead conversations and classes and events and all those kinds of things. And so, but yeah, we'll have a youth guy down there. We'll have children's ministry team down there. We'll have re-engage. We'll have everything that you have here on a Wednesday night, you'll have there. And honestly, again, the cool part about the way that Lake Placid is being built, this building was built with a previous model in mind. Not that was wrong, right, or indifferent. That's just what the season was. We're building this. We're laying it out for the goal of more decentralized ministry, more classes, more round talk round table conversations, less classroom, I'm teaching you listening, more dialogue, less monologues. And so the goal here is, our Wednesday night ministry is going to be hustling and bustling. And I'll be really honest with you. If you want my full transparency, we can bookmark this. I think our student ministry in Lake Placid will be larger than our student ministry here. I'll tell you why. It's completely because of location. This is such a hard place for teenagers to get to. I have a kid who rides his electric scooter from the high school here. He rides his electric scooter here, right? Yeah, we've offered him rides, but he wants to ride his electric scooter. That's he can do his own thing, whatever. But think about it. We literally have a football team that is could walk here off of the practice field and walk over to our church if they needed to. They get a ride down the road if they need to. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's like, I believe that our student ministry, our next gen ministry, is going to immediately be hustling and bustling out the seams. So if God has called you to be a part of this, be prepared, especially if you have a heart for students and young people. The harvest, I'm telling you, is plentiful. It's time for the workers to show up, and it's going to be powerful. I'm telling you. I'm most confident in that. I mean, maybe it's just 'cause I've been doing next gen ministry for so long now, student ministry for so long. But I just think the second we open our doors to students in Lake Placid, it's going to be overflowing. It's going to be beautiful. So.
Yeah, we in that decentralizing model, just like Grace U right now, there's leaders teaching all over campus. I'm not one of them. And it'll be the same in Lake Placid. It's it's going to take an army to serve an army. And so when we're offering re-engage marriage ministry up here, it's going to be happening down there simultaneously. Financial peace up here. So that when we're talking about on Sunday morning, hey, don't forget to sign up for Financial Peace University or re-engage or the study on Philippians. It doesn't matter what location you're at. That's what's being offered everywhere. And so it's going to take an army of people who are willing to put in the legwork with us to be the facilitators of those discussions and lead their location, which will lead me to the final thing I'll leave you with, and then we'll pray. As we approach closer, we'll go through what we'll just call a covenant period as a church family. And we'll do a little bit more vision casting. We'll know a little bit more then, but we'll call the whole body of grace into covenant with us to either covenant for 1 year at Lake Placid or Sebring. And so some folks from Avon Park may covenant in Lake Placid for a year. Some folks from Lake Placid may covenant Sebring for a year. But in general, we know that Lake Placid, some of the Spring Lake people, some of the Lake Josephine people will probably gravitate south. And we want to invite them to own your location, whether it's Sebring or Lake Placid, at an intensity that you never have before for a year. Serve, attend, invite, give. Be there. Make that your location. So we'll have a time for you to really pray about, especially those of y'all that are in the middle, like Nancy. She's Lake Josephine. It's similar distance. We have a lot of, our fastest growing population right now at Grace is Spring Lake. Exponential growth happening along that 66-98 corridor. And they're going to kind of be caught in the middle. It's what do we go, north or south? Well, covenant with us at one. Doesn't mean you don't visit the other, but we want one location to always have your yes. And when that location doesn't need your yes that weekend or that Wednesday night, then visit the other one to stay connected with the broader body as a whole. I look forward to the latitude of a Wednesday night, because while I may be primarily broadcasting here, I'll get to be a part of Grace University on Wednesday nights in Lake Placid to just stay connected with that body down there. So I look forward to that. Let's pray together. We'll hang around and talk all you want to. Why don't you pray for us?
Yeah, let's pray. Father God, we love you so much. We're so excited and thrilled and just borderline overwhelmed at times with the great work that you're doing here at Grace through this body specifically. God, you have blessed us beyond measure. And if you don't do another thing, God, we are so grateful for everything you've done for us. So God, I pray as the people in the room are hearing the vision, I pray that you continue to captivate their hearts and speak to them what it is that you're calling them to, whether it be a specific type of ministry or a specific vision or just, God, just to be an attender or a participator. God, I pray that you'll give that to them, God, so that as we continue to move forward, we're going to see you do a great work here and in Lake Placid, God, and it's going to be uncomfortable at times, and it's going to be confusing at times, and it's going to stretch us a little thin, but we do know that your Spirit is all up in this, God. You've made that abundantly clear from the moment that we had this conversation about the college, the moment we started to want to plant north, God, and you sent us south. So we trust you. We will continue to trust you. We love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.